Hello. In today's quick Grok video, we will focus on editing asset information in TopBraid EDG. Let's switch to TopBraid EDG. I will use as an example one of the business glossaries in TopBraid EDG, and we will be editing information about terms, but this works the same with any asset in TopBraid EDG, or very nearly the same. So here we are in the glossary. The default layout is to have glossary terms on the left, and then when you click on one, you see it displayed on a form, and we could be editing in that form. But before we'll focus on the form, I want to quickly show bulk editing, where you could select multiple assets and edit them at once. And this is done by checking them either in the search panel or, let's say, in an asset list, and then selecting Edit Assets. This dialog lets us pick multiple fields that we may want to edit, and I will pick two just as an example, and then we can be editing them one by one. So for the purpose, I will just enter some purpose and click Next. And then used by organization, I could either delete information or add information. So in this case, all three terms have organization one as they're used by organization. So I could remove it. I could also replace it or add another organization, but I will keep it removed. I click Next and I'll get the overview of changes that are being added, and then changes that are being deleted in red. And if I'm happy with it, then I'll click Submit and it's success. So this is bulk editing. Now let's focus on editing in a form. So here in the form, I see information being displayed, and I could either click on the Edit button or click on a specific field and it will open for editing. When I click on the Edit button, if a section is displayed on a form, then I will see all potential fields in this section, even if they currently have no values. If the section is not displayed on a form, then I will not see it and will not see its values. In order to see all the possible values that are available for the business term, I could go to Settings and say also show properties that have no values, and that will show all possible properties and let me edit them, whether they have a value or not. For now, I'm going to switch back to this. And let me start editing. So if there's possible to have multiple values for a given property, I'm going to have a little plus sign that gives me a chance to enter additional slot. If there could be only one value, then as you could see here, there's no plus slot, and I just change the available value. This minus sign gives me an opportunity to delete the value that's being displayed, to remove it. And then there is a little drop-down menu on the right that lets me change the edit widgets, and the options available for changing depend on the field and what's defined in the model for it. For example, here I could switch to have a text area, and actually a text area with a language text area gives me more space to enter. I could just switch to text field with language. These are the options. Here I have an option that switches between the rich text editor and the plain text editor. With TopBraid EDG, you could see how it can protect me from making mistakes. For example, if there's only one field, one value possible, I will not be able to get a slot for an additional field. Also, if the field, for example, is numeric, I will not be able to enter textual information. Another example of how it protects me is here is an acronym. Let me enter something, PRCH, and I'm gonna try to save changes. And you see I have a warning here that the value exceeds the maximum allowed number of characters. In my model, I've said that the acronym has to be no more than 3 characters. And I'm given the message, and I have an option to fix the error. If Edge could suggest how to fix it, it will provide suggestions. Otherwise, I could fix it myself. And then I have an option of either saving it anyway, even if I don't fix the error, or I have an option um, for canceling. The setting on whether I could save even if error is present depends on what is determined at the Edge server-wide level. There's 2 options. One is that lets users save with errors, and another one prevents them from saving if there are errors. There's also, in the model, you specify that something is an error versus just an information or a warning. So there is various options of how you could set this type of thing within the ontology model behind my glossary, my business glossary. So far we have looked at the literal fields, in other words, text, numbers, dates, etc. In addition to that, there's also a number of relationships that are defined for glossary terms. Let's look at them and see how I could edit relationships. So broader term is one example, a related term is another example. So in case of relationship, I have a couple of options. I could start typing something, and I have an autocomplete, and I could select the value that presented to me. If I don't remember what the value starts with, I could use this option to switch to a full text search. And here, instead of autocomplete, I could have full text search and pick a value that way. For example, if I type supplement, I'll get brochure supplement. And I could pick it like this. And then I could also do drag and drop from this from another panel, like search results panel. So that's another option. And finally, if I do not see an asset to which I want to build a relationship, there is an option for creating one. So I could create a brand new glossary term right here. And let's say, I'm going to say special. Okay. And I'm going to save changes. Sometimes I may not be able to create a new asset. This is determined again by the model and whether the assets should be belonging to the glossary term or should belong to some other asset collection. For example, in case of use by organization, I don't have an option to create a new organization because organizations should be located in the enterprise asset collections and not in the glossary, not in the business glossary, which is a home for glossary terms. Sometimes fields may not be editable. This can happen under various conditions. First of all, a field could be calculated. For example, here, number of related terms. This is automatically generated field, so I can't edit it. Another possibility is that field is defined as read-only, and this is a case with the exact match. Again, I could not edit it. If I'm not sure why I cannot edit the field, I could go to the type or class itself and click on that property to find out how it's defined. For example, let's click on a close match, and you see that it's in a read-only mode. Now, let's click on the number of related terms, and we could see that this field is actually backed by a rule, a values rule, and it's being calculated by counting a number of related terms. So if I'm not sure why I cannot edit the field, I could investigate it by going to the class itself and looking how the property is defined. Another reason I may not be able to edit the field if the resource is included from another asset collection. For example, let me switch to another glossary, ITIL glossary. This actually includes my set glossary. So if I click on a brochure here, I see that it's defined in a different asset collection. And if I try to edit this label, I cannot, because this label is defined elsewhere. I have to go back to the home collection, and this is where I could edit it. So let me switch back. Let me show you a couple of other options. Sometimes when I'm editing a property, I can see a little plus to the left of it. This means that I could add additional annotations or values to the value that I enter. In this case, the status is approved, and I could add information about the effective start and effective end of this particular status. Pick a date. Let's say this happens when again, it's determined by an ontology model that specifies that this particular value, the status value, can be annotated with additional information. And in the ontology model, it says that it can be annotated with the effective start and end date. So that's another option. And one more option that I want to show you is here. So some values can be indexed. You could see a 0 index here, and let me switch to the text field, and let's say I want to enter a link, and then I want to enter another link, and so on. So this will be an ordered list with Edge automatically assigning index to each value, and it's possible to drag and drop and rearrange the order in the list. This is again determined in the ontology model behind it with a reference link property being declared as indexed. Now when we look at the top of the form, so let me save changes here. When we look at the top of the form, we see a drop down here. And in this case, the drop down is because I could switch between the business term view and the stewardship view. This glossary is defined to have an asset level governance roles. So the stewardship view lets me say who is a steward for this particular term. I'm just gonna select myself an administrator. There are a number of reasons why there could be multiple drop-down views. It could be because the particular asset you're looking at is a member of two different classes and therefore has different alternative definitions, and these classes are unrelated to each other. It's also possible that there are special views are defined by certain roles, and then when you're playing that role, you're going to have a role-specific view, but still there could be a drop-down to switch to another view. When this is the case, you could merge properties from all possible views, and then they will all show up in a single page. So let me switch to the top display. So you see that I now have all this previously available sections, but I also have the governance roles section. One more option I want to show you is the ability to enter a log message when you make a change. So this is available under settings. And now if I make a change, I have an opportunity to enter a description of the edit with a log message. And then one final option I want to mention is that sometimes on the forum, you will see information displayed in a table, and then you enter new values within the table itself. So one example of it is, let me switch to this data asset collection that contains a logical model. And if I click on a logical entity, such as address, have tabs. All right, so I see a table that shows attributes for this logical entity and relationships if they exist. So for example, here I see information displayed in the table, and I could create new items by clicking new directly in this table, and I have a dialog with various options. This is a possible display. Again, it needs to be configured for this type of editing features and information display. So with this, we've covered the major features of the search form. Probably the only thing to mention is that you have a few additional options under modify. This is where delete is located, and you could also clone the resource that you're currently displaying. You could merge it with another asset, combining information together, and you could use replace, and what replace does is modifies the URI identity of the currently displayed resource. Also, sometimes there are specialized additional modified operations. For example, in taxonomy, you will be able to delete with descendants, you'll be able to clone with descendants, and there are a few other options like this. This concludes our video today, and thank you for watching.